You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
Is he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
The US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show, Logically Left. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. And look, it's Friday. I got a great Friday show here, including a honey trap. And an admission that, yes, the Trump administration is trying to hide the Epstein stuff. Okay? Who is in the Epstein files, specifically? And so, oops, this is a bit of an admission here. And so I've got that video for you. That's amazing. Then we have Janine Pirro. Justice with Janine? Not so much. Not so much. You're going to love that. Her losing streak continues. We've got the August job reports. The real numbers are out now, and it's even worse than before. I talked about this on Thursday, and that was before the actual job numbers come out, and I was like, man, they're going to be bad. They were going to be terrible, okay? Forecast to be terrible, and it's actually even worse than I had thought previously. Wow. These are some terrible jobs numbers. And then finally, Trump, the administration is literally going after the Second Amendment rights. Yes, you heard me, Second Amendment rights of transgender Americans. In response to the Minneapolis shooting, I've got the details on that. What DOJ officials are saying, or I should say people inside the Trump administration are saying about, just stripping Americans of their rights. And yeah, so, I mean, it is absolutely just, an attack against transgender Americans and against the Constitution, by the way. Because, we do have this whole Second Amendment thing. And they're basically trying to pervert it to target a group of people that they do not like, not based on any evidence, not based on any data, because when you look at the data, transgender people do not do a majority of the shootings. It's cis white men, specifically young men, white men, that are doing the vast majority of mass shootings, and yet here's the administration targeting a group of people who are more likely to be the victim of violent crime. And again, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. So look, that's those are the stories that I have today. Again, it's going to be a great show. There's a lot of important stuff to talk about. But before I do, please like and share the stream. Okay, and it's still only the first year, exactly, PJ. That exactly. And we've got so much longer to go. This is going to be the longest, at least 4 years of our lives, and so much has already changed. So much has gone wrong, and so much will continue to go wrong. I mean, every day is brand new, fresh hell that we are all experiencing now. But anyway, let's see. I want Marjorie Taylor Greene to go on the House floor and say the names in the files. She can do it without any punishment. That would be nice. Now, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, she's starting to come out a little stronger now, but still is refusing to talk about Donald Trump, to name him. And so, or to talk bad. Did I hear about the West Coast Healthcare Alliance? I did not. So, I'll have to look up the details now that that's on my radar. Doesn't sound like a good thing, is it? Or is it a good thing? Actually, it is. Because I think, hear about this. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But this is a bunch of states that are getting together to protect vaccines, basically. Is that do I have that correct? Because, I mean, and the reason, of course, is because vaccination is under attack. I mean, I've talked about Florida, for example, targeting childhood, vaccines for kids. And so it's just like, oh, now we're going to see a resurgence, even more of a resurgence of these diseases that were eradicated. And, again, red states like Florida, they're going to be ground zero, literal petri dish. That's what they're doing. RFK Jr. So yeah, I do have that right. Blue states will take care of their own. Yeah. And there you go. Wow. It's just horrific what's going on. But anyway, let's go into the first story here. Let's talk about that. Again, if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Like and share the show. Very, very helpful if you do that. Because, I need all the viewership and all the support that we can. As I do not get dark money, okay? Do not get funded by big organizations, no George Soros checks, nothing like that. No Poly Market Studios, nothing. The only money that I get is from people like you, and of course the advertisements on the various platforms that I have absolutely no say in. Okay, so it's not a lot. Okay, let's just say that it's not a lot, which kind of makes me think like some of the smaller creators specifically. I can see the allure of signing a contract like that, especially if you're, already doing those things, if already talking about the things that they, would like you to talk about, or if you don't talk about the things that they don't want you to talk about already. Yeah, that could be, a lifeline for a lot of people. I don't do that. I've never been offered any of that. I wouldn't take it if I was, but still, I get it. But I'm not comfortable with taking dark money, and I'm not comfortable with doing, ad reads or anything like that. No, sponsorships. It's not like I haven't been offered sponsorships. I have. But I haven't taken any of them because I don't want this show to be a commercial. Okay? I don't want it to be a commercial. I just want to do the news. I want to talk about things that I care about. And I want to talk about important things and fun things. And so that's what I try to do here. And look, I need your support to continue doing it. Things are not getting any easier here when it comes to the online space, when it comes to doing, this type of show, this trying to, this whole creating content thing. And look, independent creators, I am an independent creator, and I don't get funded by anybody except for the audience, and so that's what I want to continue to do. So please consider becoming a supporter, consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf, or hit the join button below if you're on YouTube or if you're on Facebook, all that. There are many different ways to support the show. So please sign up, help me out, and support. And then not just me, by the way, support your favorite creator, whether it's, Secular Talk or Kyle Kalinske, or Humanist Report. Any of those people, do that. Independent creators, people who are not beholden. And I know. Well, Kyle Kalinske, I mean, obviously, what Big Seltzer. No. That is the joke, though. And the other joke is that he has no legs. I don't know. I've never seen him in person, so I don't know if he has legs or not. But I don't think he's being controlled by Big Seltzer. Sorry. But anyway, independent creators, support them. If you want to continue seeing people who you like, who you think are doing a good job, then support them. Throw $5 their way or something like that. Because in this space, with obviously the lack of money on the left for left creators, for actual leftist creators, I mean, we could use it. We could use it. Especially those who do speak out against the establishment and speak for good things, and are working really, really hard against Donald Trump and the people and the very policies that led us here, which again are more neoliberal corporate policies. So anyway, that's it. Let's dive in here. Let's start out with the honey pot. Oh boy, this is probably my favorite story of the day too. Okay. An undercover video has caught a top DOJ official discussing Pam Bondi, who's the Attorney General, her plan to cover up for Donald Trump and Republicans who could be on the Epstein client list. Now, the bizarre thing here is that this video actually comes from Project Veritas? What? I know. Insane that I am actually showing and agreeing with a Project Veritas video, but these are very, very strange times. Okay, very strange times indeed. I mean, the same people that brought us, okay, that video, apparently James O'Keefe dropped this video, and it's absolutely amazing. Let's take a look at it, and then I'm going to break it down.
I don't know what Bonnie wants. Bonnie wants whatever she wants.
Sure.
Yes, but
Do you think the stuff with Epstein will actually get released or not at all?
if it does, it'll be heavily redacted, and his name won't be in it.
Well, those files do exist.
There's files.
Yeah.
For sure. There's thousands and thousands of pages of files. But again, if they're released in any way, it's going to be very redacted. They'll redact every Republican or conservative person in those files, leave all the liberal Democratic people in those files, and have a very slanted version of it come out where it's like, look at what he's doing without releasing any of their bad behavior.
Oh boy. That is Joseph Schnitt, who is the acting deputy chief in Pam Bondi's Department of Justice, basically spilling all of that to a date that he had met on Hinge, which turned out, of course, to be someone working for Project Veritas. It's your classic honeypot. Okay. Oh, I love it. Now, Schnitt told his date that the decision to move Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's associate, to a minimum security prison actually went against the Board of Prisons policies due to her status as a convicted sex offender. He said basically that this had meant that the Department of Justice was offering her something to keep her mouth shut. Now, I think that is, yes, absolutely. Ghislaine Maxwell, remember, 100% she looks after Ghislaine Maxwell, okay? Look, she lied during her trial. And so I think absolutely she would, if offered a pardon, or given, in this case, better living arrangements in prison, a more minimum security prison, I think that she will say whatever Trump wants her to say, which I think would go along with this. I mean, she already had told Trump's former lawyer, okay, Todd Blanche, that, Trump, I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong at all. No, he wasn't involved in any of this stuff. Right. Now, so not a surprise. Now, Schnitt also went on to describe the infighting between Pam Bondi and FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. He said, second in command at the FBI has been causing problems because he's like, no, these Epstein files have to be released. Internally, there's a lot of conflict. Now, we saw that play out earlier when it wasn't clear if Dan Bongino was ever going to go back to work. So he took this time off. He left, walked out of the office, and then everybody was like, did Dan Bongino quit, or is he getting fired, or what the hell is going on here? Now, he eventually did come back to work, and so it's very clear who won that war, okay? It was Pam Bondi. And Pam Bondi won that war because of, well, she was backing Donald Trump, which tracks to what he was saying, okay? That Bondi is a yes person who will want whatever Trump wants. Remember, Trump is out there talking about how all of this is just a Democrat-led hoax and that none of it's true and nobody really cares about the Epstein files. No, not at all. It's a distraction, he says. But it's not. And all of their excuses for not releasing the unredacted full list, client list that Pam Bondi claimed that she literally had on her desk is just falling apart. It's falling apart. All right. And look, I know the common refrain here is, well, if Trump's name was on it, why didn't Joe Biden release it? How would he release it? It was actually literally under seal by the court until January of 2024. That is after Biden had left office. Okay. So look, they didn't specifically run, Biden didn't, on releasing it, so it really wasn't his priority, since he didn't even know what was in it, okay? And so, and by the way, if there were Democrats on that list, then that's even more of a reason for me to see it. I want to see it. And the reason is, and why Democrats agree with me, okay, is that we don't want those people in the party. Okay, I mean, and there's a couple of great examples, right? For example, Anthony Weiner. Remember him? This is a man who was busted sexting a 15-year-old. What happened to him? He got immediately booted. Immediately booted. Elliot Spitzer. Now, he didn't, do anything involving teenage girls or kids or whatever, but he was busted, visiting sex workers, okay? That was enough to get Elliot Spitzer drummed out of the party, okay? Now, who led that charge, by the way? It was Republicans. They even accused him of using public money to go and see those sex workers. There was an investigation which actually revealed that he did not use public money. He was never charged for that, but Elliot Spitzer ended up having to resign as a result of this, Okay. Now, personally, I believe that sex work should be decriminalized. Okay. And a lot of sex workers, that's what they want to see happen. Okay. So I don't think that what Spitzer did was really wrong at all. Okay. But anyway, nonetheless, a lot of Democrats were like, no, get out. You're done. You're done. Okay. So now here's the thing. If you're a Republican and you do those things, and we have numerous examples of that, you don't get drummed out of the party. No. All you have to do is apologize. You profess your love for Jesus, ask for forgiveness, and boom, you're back, baby. Hell, they might even elect you to be president. Okay. Now, that said, to be fair, not every Republican is falling in line. I mean, again, James O'Keefe is a great example. He's a right-wing operative, and he's the one who dropped this video in the first place. And not only that, you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, again, massive conservative. Thomas Massey, another Republican. Lauren Boebert. I mean, they're all out there supporting the victims of Epstein, okay, and asking, hey, we should release all the files. So now, why haven't they released the files if there are no Republicans on it? Well, I have a potential explanation. There are thousands of pages of documents, this guy said. And if he's being honest, okay, about this and not just trying to impress the state, but if he's being honest, there's a lot of pages to go through. And it takes time and manpower to redact names from those documents. And so I believe what he's saying here. And I believe that that is the reason that they haven't released it yet, because they haven't gone through and got rid of all the Republicans and all the mentions of Donald Trump in these files. And so I think that that's exactly what they're doing. They're redacting his name. They're taking out all the Republicans, and they're going to leave, the liberals. Okay, if there are liberals or Democrats on it, or big donors that donate to Democratic causes. So now that said, I also believe that he was trying to impress his date, obviously, but because that's what guys do. Oh yeah, I know all this stuff. But I mean, with the ease that he was talking about all this stuff, I mean, that is pretty interesting. Now that said, he's kind of backtracked a little bit, likely because of Bondi. Okay. Now, in a statement he posted to social media, Schnitt claimed that the comments were, quote, my own personal comments on what I've learned in the media and not from anything I've done at or via work. In the media. So what do you mean by that? You have learned from media that Pam Bondi is going to redact all the names of Republicans and Donald Trump? Where would you hear that? Where did you hear that? I mean, certainly you wouldn't hear it from Fox News, would you? Or Newsmax? Or any of the Republican state media? I mean, maybe there is some right-wing media outlets or right-wing leaning media outlets that could be saying something like that. Again, some Republicans, some conservatives are concerned, and yeah, and are very concerned about what's the Epstein files, and they want it to be released. I don't know. I haven't seen any examples of that, but that doesn't mean that none have. I'm just saying. That said, the DOJ put out a weird statement about this, saying the comments in this video have absolutely zero bearing with reality. Again, it's their own acting deputy director, and reflect a total lack of knowledge of the DOJ's review process. So are you saying, you admitting that you're hiring people that have no idea what they're doing in their job? I mean, this is like one of those very, very Trumpian type of statement, right? Where it's like, the guy that I hired that I said, oh, well, what a great expert. I hired the best people, the greatest people, the smartest people. And then later on, they're like, what an idiot. I can't believe who would hire this moron. Well, it was you. You hired the guy. You hired this person. I mean, it's absolutely, again, super comical, but absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what? That statement is so incredibly bizarre. Oh, yes, this person who's high up in the Department of Justice has no idea how to do his job. Then why did you hire him? Why is he still working there? Again, none of this makes any sense except for I think he's being honest about this. Okay. And I think that is exactly what they're doing. Now, that said, as a response to Thomas Massey's bipartisan resolution calling for the release of the Epstein files, the DOJ did release more than 33,000 documents relating to the Epstein case. That said, about 97% of that was already made publicly available. So we're not looking to find the stuff that that was already released. That doesn't make any sense. No, what we want is the client list. That's what people are waiting for. That's what people want to see. And that is exactly what they're not releasing and why they're not releasing it. And here's the thing. I don't want to just get Trump. That's not the whole point of getting the client list. I want every powerful donor politician that is on that list, regardless of party affiliation, to face justice. I do not care who is on that list. If you raped a child, you should be done. Straight to jail. We're not messing around when it comes to pedophiles. Okay? That's it. That's it. We're not messing around here. But I know who is. Donald Trump's Department of Justice. Okay. Moving on. Let's go to Janine Pirro. Loser Janine Pirro, or as some of you have taken to calling her, Pirro Grigio, which I love, is continuing to rack up a pretty impressive losing streak in court. The latest happened on Thursday, where DOJ prosecutors informed a judge that they were withdrawing federal charges against a man that they accused of making death threats against President Donald Trump. Well, that would be very serious, right? Now, the thing is, once again, they just couldn't close the deal. Now, the Office of Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, had alleged that Eduardo Alexander Dana had broken a light fixture outside of a D.C. restaurant on August 17th. And while he was in police custody, had allegedly said that he would kill the President of the United States. Now, his attorneys were like, the guy was drunk and he was singing in the police cruiser. And somehow during that's when he had made the alleged threat. Now, his lawyers argued once again that his remarks were basically no more than the idle ramblings of a drunk person. Something Janine Pirro you would think would be very familiar with. That was pretty much her entire show. Okay. Look, this is yet another of the cases brought to court during Trump's federal takeover of DC's law enforcement that defense attorneys have described as nothing more than prosecutorial overreach that is unworthy of a federal court's time. Wow. Now, a federal magistrate judge agreed, along with a DC grand jury, who refused to indict Dana. Now, hold on. I thought that it was supposed to be very, very easy to secure an indictment. I mean, so easy that you could indict a ham sandwich. And yet, Janine Pirro is 0 for 7. Yes, 0 for 7. Again, the ruling here by Judge Zia M. Faruqi basically is a 7th loss in a row for this woman. Okay, now during his ruling, he went so far as to quote the Justice Manual for U.S. Attorneys, which says that prosecutors should not pursue federal cases unless they believe the defendant is likely to be found guilty. That seems to make sense, right? But no, that's not what Pirro is doing. Pirro is going balls to the wall, okay? And that earned her a rebuke. In a Thursday court order, Faruqi called out Pirro's office for their inexcusable actions in their latest weak case, the one against Dana. He demanded to know what was being done to, quote, remedy what happened to Mr. Dana. So not only is he not going to be charged, the judge is like, I think you owe him, okay? For example, you should expunge his arrest record because this is BS. Absolute BS. So much for the DC crackdown. More like the DC crack up. Okay, but anyway, Faruqi then wrote, given that there have been an unprecedented number of cases that the U.S. attorney dismissed in the past 10 days, all of whom were detained for some period of time, the court has left the question if this principle still applies. Okay. Speaking of principles being applied here, you know what I see happening? Jury nullification. You love to see it. Okay. And not because we love criminals. It's because obvious overreach is obvious. That, again, they're literally claiming, Pirro, for example, that, these things that generally are misdemeanors are worth felony charges. Not only that, but they have, on numerous cases, accused defendants of assaulting federal officers, when in many of these, there was either no assault that happened or no video evidence to corroborate any of their claims. Because National Guardsmen, for example, are not required to wear body cameras. And in the cases where there were video, for example, the Subway sandwich thrower that I talked about, throwing a sandwich isn't a felony, okay? Throwing a sandwich is not a felony, all right? And so they tried to charge him with a felony anyway. And no, not a felony, not a felony. And by the way, Janine Pirro, after that had happened, she made a big show of like, we're going to come after him with felony charges. He's not laughing now. Well, actually, no, he probably is. I mean, we're all laughing here. We're all laughing at Janine Pirro because she's a joke. She's an absolute joke. No, at most, he may face misdemeanor charges for throwing a sandwich. Okay. Now, in another case, prosecutors claimed that a D.C. woman had assaulted an FBI agent while immigration and customs enforcement agents were carrying out an inmate swap. Okay. Now, remember, the grand juries had declined in this case to indict the woman, not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 strikes, you are out. Okay. Hilarious, but not unexpected. Very expected. Here's the thing. Everyone knows, except for, I guess, apparently Donald Trump, okay, that Janine Pirro is an idiot. Okay. Fox News executives, they knew because they had to work with her. I got some quotes here that are amazing, and they were part of legal documents that were made public last month as part of the defamation suit brought against Fox News by Smartmatic. Here they are. One Fox News executive had called her, and this is, again, after the 2020 election. This is, when she still had her show and she was doing all these conspiracy theories about voter fraud, whatever. Now, one Fox News executive had called her a, quote, reckless maniac. Another said, I do not trust her to be responsible. A third went after her tendency to find random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. And another Fox corporate board member had called her, one of her public statements, quote, insane. Insane. So that's what people that she worked for on the network, Fox News, that's what they thought of her. That's what they thought of her. In the filings, Fox News executive Jerry Andrews had wrote to two other executives on November 20th, 2020, that Janine's script for that show was, quote, rife with conspiracy theories and BS, and yet is another example of why this woman should never be on live television. There it is. The people that employed her were like, that woman is crazy. She should not be on TV. And then what happened? They put her on TV. I mean, they took away her show, but they then put her on The Five. And that's probably why Trump picked her, because she is on TV and she was saying a lot of the things that Donald Trump liked to hear. And now she is the DC Attorney General. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, all right? But she's such a failure, such a clown, that she cannot get any indictments. And there you go. Again, not exactly a shocker here because of, you know, everything that we've already seen, but still hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Okay. Let's move on. Pirro's throwing a constant 10 for tantrum, just like her current boss. Indeed. Indeed. All right. Let's move on to the jobs report. I love this one. The August jobs report, which came out early on Friday, is even worse than pretty much everyone expected it to be. And I was expecting it to be pretty bad. I talked about this on Thursday and how the projections were bad. But no, it's worse. Just 22,000 jobs were added in August. 22,000. In fact, for the first time in nearly 4 years, the economy overall had lost jobs about 13,000 in June. By the way, manufacturing jobs had fallen for the fourth month in a row for a total of 78,000 lost so far this year. Black unemployment climbed to 7.5%, the highest level in almost 4 years. And there are many other problems here with the jobs numbers, okay? With the Trump economy overall, it is a disaster, an absolute disaster. Now, that's not going to be the focus. You're probably already aware of how bad the jobs reports are. But what I want to talk about is how Fox News has reacted to it. Take a look.
Paying, and really quick, I just want to say here, private payrolls coming in. The expectation was 75,000. We got 38,000, and there was a loss of 16,000 jobs in government, which I think Lauren mentioned. But again, you know, that 22,000 number, Charles, it's a weaker than expected number, and these revisions are pretty brutal.
Yeah, extraordinarily. You know, gone through. I mentioned healthcare, 31,000. The 12-month average is 42,000. That have been obviously a massive driver, and we know the demographic situation there. Just a little disappointed. Manufacturing was hoping to maybe see something there. It's not so bad that we're thinking recession, but it's bad enough that we think maybe the Fed could be much more accommodative beyond September.
Yeah, and also, too, Jody Biley, labor force participation rate 62.3%. Your reaction?
Yeah, so we're not seeing much movement in that number, which is disappointing and surprising, to be honest with you, Cheryl, because we're seeing that there is starting to be some increase in the weekly jobless claims. And so I like to look into that number and say, are we seeing more people say they want to participate in the workforce? I also think this report is a little bit more of the same. The jobs are in healthcare, they're in leisure and hospitality. We've lost jobs again in the professional business service sector. We've lost jobs in this report in the temporary help sector, which is not a good sign. So there's a lot of concern. Even though the private payroll number is 38,000, that is still a pretty weak number.
That is still a pretty weak number. Oof. Ouch. And again, brutal. Okay. The economy is stagnating. Okay. So much for Donald Trump being the jobs president. If it continues to go this way, I think the only jobs that are going to be left are working in the fields because they've kicked out all the immigrants. And maybe that is the plan. Maybe that's the plan. Trump jobs plan is going to be, going out and picking fruits and vegetables for very little pay. I don't know. It's not like they haven't floated that for people on Medicaid. Okay. Now, here's what's funny about this, right? I was concerned, and I think a lot of people were, that Trump's new Bureau of Labor Statistics guy was going to go and fudge the numbers, right? Apparently that didn't happen this time. Not this time. Probably in the future, yes. I'm sure that somebody is having a talk with Mr. Antoni right now about this one. Because again, that jobs report is brutal. But here comes Kevin Hassett, the director of the National Economic Council for Trump. He went on America's Newsroom to attempt to do some damage control.
It's not the number you wanted. It was not the number that was expected. How come?
Right. Well, one of the things we know is that they've been really at BLS struggling with bad response rates. And Goldman Sachs put out a study yesterday that said that they've been messing up the August seasonal so much that over the last 10 to 15 years, they've tended to have to revise up the number by around almost 70,000 jobs when they get the new final surveys.
So it's their fault?
And so, well, I'm saying that this number, we expect this number will be revised up. That's been the pattern over and over. And if that happens, then it'll be consistent with all the other indicators. We're seeing industrial production is at an all-time high. Capital spending is up 8% over the first half of the year after it being mostly flat under Joe Biden. And also within the jobs report we got today, there are a lot of really interesting and positive patterns. Thing one is that all the job creation is private sector job creation. Government workers are actually, their employment declined by 100,000. All of the job creation is native-born workers, whereas about half of the job creation under Biden was foreign-born workers. And so there are a lot of real positive things to see. And the final thing is that the wage numbers are fantastic. The wage growth is almost at 4%, which means that the typical wage earner in America right now has gotten a $500 raise already because of Donald Trump's policy.
Okay, so the revisions for June and July collectively were lower.
We're lower,
and you're
right.
saying the revisions for next month will come back. We'll see whether or not that's the case.
Yeah, and there's another big revision next week. But the point is that these numbers, the reason why they're getting revised so much is that these numbers are based on surveys, and people are kind of not filling out the surveys until the last minute, and so that the share of surveys that have actually been filled out at the beginning of the month is way lower than it used to be.
Not even Bill Hemmer is buying that spin. Okay. Wait a minute. You're talking about the revisions, right? But the last couple of months, the revisions have been lower. What are you talking about? No, you don't understand. You got to wait for the revisions. You gotta wait for the revisions. The revisions didn't help you, and they ain't gonna help you this time, too. Look, employment has stalled out, okay? That's a result of Donald Trump's policies. That's a result of AI. It's a result of the tariffs. It's a result of all of this look, people don't know what's going to happen. People do not know what's going to happen. And so, as a result, people are not spending money. And so there's a lot of different reasons why the economy is stalling out the way that it is. And a lot of it has to do with Trump's stewardship of the economy. Now, I also love, by the way, I'm going to talk about Hassett saying, oh, you don't understand. People are making more money now. Look at the wage growth. Look at the wage growth. It's at 4%. Look at that 4%. Inflation, 2.7%. Now, technically, sure, you could say, what? Well, okay, so we are making technically a little bit more money. But wait a minute. Inflation, and also I will include the Biden years under this because there was a lot of inflation. Okay, and a lot of that, by the way, is a result of greedflation, corporations raising, their costs, even though the things weren't actually costing them more. Okay, they were just being greedy. Okay, they were raising the prices of things, even though their costs had gone up for a little bit, but then gone right back down, and they took that money, that extra money now, and just put it in their pockets. Okay, that's what they did. So a lot of that greedflation, by the way, prices still haven't gone back down to where they were back in 2019, for example. Inflation isn't just the level of, how fast prices are rising. Okay, that right there is inflation, but the result of that, when inflation goes down, that doesn't mean that the costs of items have gone back down. It just means the rate that costs are rising has gone down. And so at 2.7%, things are still, year by year, still getting 2.7% more expensive. And that adds up. While wages, again, have not exactly kept up with that, all right, with the costs of new things. And so, they don't talk about that. Not a lot of people do. So I'm not exactly impressed by the 4% wage growth, especially whenever I see that, wages have gone, people are getting wealthier in this country. Does that factor in how much rich people have made? Because, we might be making a tiny bit more as working people, but rich people have run away with the majority of the gains, and they have been doing so for a very long time. Okay. Now, that said, another factor here that is making it so that Americans aren't exactly going to feel that much richer. He's talked about $500, right? No, an extra $500. You know how much the tariffs are eating into it? An estimated $2,400 a year. That's how much we are losing as a result of Donald Trump's trade wars. Again, that is a tax on the American people. That is not a tax on China, okay? Corporations, importers specifically, pay that tax, the tariff, and then pass the costs on to the consumer. So we're paying more for that. Now, look, not only are we, paying an estimated $2,400 a year as a result of Trump's tariffs, his taxes, but it's also costing more to do normal things. Like, for example, an extra $400 to finance a car. You have home prices that have risen. You will have health insurance costs that are about to rise at least 18% more come 2026, because you have all these health insurance companies that are getting ready to hike the price because the government is pulling back on the subsidies and tax breaks. And so everything is in the process of getting even more expensive. Look, I'm no mathematician here, But I would say that this does not look good. This does not look like good numbers. These are terrible numbers. And no amount of spin from Trump or his little lackeys, his little toadies, like Kevin Hassett, is going to hide the reality that the American people, the average working class person now in this country, is worse off financially than we were before. And that's the reality. Shrinkflation is another good one. Grand Theft Auto bot, shrinking the size of the product while charging the same amount. Oh, yeah. Oh, I've noticed. So, yeah, a lot of us have. All right. Let's move on. Last story here. So much for the Second Amendment. President Donald Trump is now considering stripping transgender Americans of their fundamental right to bear arms. Sources inside the Justice Department have spoken to CNN and told them that the Trump administration is considering a ban on transgender individuals owning firearms. Now, they note that talks in the ban are preliminary in nature and mainly cite the shooting in Minneapolis last week, where you had incorrect reports. You had the right wing run away with a narrative that the shooter is transgender. Now, here's the thing about that. So the shooter had once identified as a transgender person, identified as a woman, even changed his name, but then detransitioned. So went the opposite way. So Robert had transitioned to Robin and then transitioned back. And so not only that, but he blamed the left for transing him. Okay. And oh yeah, no, I am brainwashed. I've been brainwashed by the left. And so, you know, I wish I had never been brainwashed. I am no longer transgender. Okay. So look, this is according to a partial translation of his own writings in his manifesto published by the New York Post. Westman had written this, quote, "I regret being trans. I wish I was a girl. I just know I cannot achieve that body with the technology we have today. I also can't afford that." Oh, okay. So now he also added, "I know I am not a woman, but I definitely don't feel like a man." So that rhetoric right there is nearly verbatim from what you hear from the right wing. Okay? So on transgender issues. Okay? That is right wing rhetoric. Not only that, but you also have from his writings an admission that he was both racist and anti-Semitic. Okay, so there you have it. This person massively right-wing and self-hating. Okay, and yet, despite the fact that he was a detransitioner, you have, oh, and by the way, not only that, but the fact that trans individuals actually commit less than 1% of all mass shootings in the United States. It was like, what, 0.003%? The Trump administration is still trying to take away their fundamental constitutional rights. That's insane. Insane. Now, a Justice Department spokesperson said in a statement that the DOJ is actively evaluating options to prevent the pattern of violence we have seen from individuals with specific mental health challenges and substance abuse disorders. Well, that means, does that mean that Janine Pirro and Pete Hegseth wouldn't be able to carry a gun either? Because, you know, I'm pretty sure Pete Hegseth, he's deep in the bottle, okay, as well as Janine Pirro. So, but that actually gets to the main point here, is that this is going to have unintended consequences because it's going to cast a gigantically wide net. Now, that said, the person the statement also already mentioned that no specific criminal justice proposals had been advanced at this time. Okay, well, let me get back to that in a bit. But first, there is a pattern of violence with certain individuals with certain issues. But it ain't trans people. It is young, white, cisgender men. I mean, that's the majority of who commits mass shootings. That is the reality here. However, according to that official, the potential ban is meant to ensure that mentally ill individuals suffering from specifically gender dysphoria would be unable to obtain firearms while unstable and unwell. So let me just note that being transgender itself is not a mental illness. Now, that said, transgender people do experience higher levels of depression. You want to know why? Look around. Look at how society treats them. I don't know, man. If society treated me like that, I'd be depressed too. Okay? Seriously, though. Look, there are transgender individuals, by the way, who do not experience gender dysphoria. I wonder if they'd be targeted too. Okay? Look, gender dysphoria is only diagnosed if it is believed to be a root symptom of depression and anxiety, both of which do not make you violent. Okay? Being depressed does not make you violent. Being anxious does not make you violent. This is ridiculous. So if the potential ban that they're talking about is based solely on the principle that, oh, you mentally ill people shouldn't have access to firearms, wouldn't that mean that any person with any diagnosed mental illness, whether it be depression, anxiety, PTSD, wouldn't they also be prevented from owning firearms? Which, again, would fly in the face of right-wing pro-gun arguments that they've used for years to try to loosen gun laws. Okay? But that, by the way, is why that in the statement they say, well, specifically gender dysphoria. Oh, okay. Now, the current legal interpretation of the Second Amendment only allows for a ban on firearm sales to individuals who are adjudicated as mentally defective. What does that mean? It means that a court, a judge, has to come out and say, okay, I think that based on, medical records, etc., that you were too mentally unstable to own a firearm at this time. So that's a process, right? And look, that's the legal interpretation. And guess what? Pro-gun people have been fighting against that for a long, long time. They've been fighting against it for years and years. Now, suddenly, this administration wants to use that very thing to try to target the trans community. That's what they're doing. According to Alejandro Caraballo, this precedent is being used against trans people. It could also be used against veterans with PTSD. It's a slippery slope to make anyone lose their Second Amendment rights. Now, look, there's another issue here. There's many, many issues here, but another one that, once again, the pro-NRA, pro-Second Amendment people were freaking out about, fighting against for years, is that the federal government, in order to do this, would have to create a registry, a government registry of people that they believe, rightly or wrongly, have undergone transition. So you would have your big government list of people. I thought they didn't want that. I thought they didn't like that. Weird. And by the way, this would violate HIPAA laws, obviously. And privacy and all of that. Now, that said, Pam Bondi and multiple Republican states' attorney general have already sued to try to gain access to those records, to people's private, personal medical records. Anyone who sought out abortion, and gender-affirming care. Now, I got to ask, wouldn't that include hormones for older men, for example? I mean, how many men do you know are taking a little bit of tea, you know? Because, like, I'm not as virile as I used to be. I'm going to take a little tea. That's gender-affirming care, okay? What about women who have experienced drops in estrogen after, for example, having a hysterectomy, right? They take that, they take hormones, they take, estrogen in order to bring those up to a normal level. That's gender-affirming care. So this would be a gigantic slippery slope that wouldn't just violate the civil liberties of transgender Americans, which is obviously the whole point of it, but it would also be just a gigantic, unconstitutional federal government overreach that could affect millions of people, millions of legal gun owners. Isn't that exactly what these Second Amendment conservative folks claim to be concerned about? I mean, because right now it seems like they're pretty silent about this. I mean, they could, of course, speak out and reject these efforts, but I personally doubt that they will. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't been made aware of the NRA coming out forcefully against this. I don't know. I just doubt that they will. I think that a lot of conservatives will back it because at the end of the day, their movement was never actually about protecting people's rights, about, small government, about protecting the Constitution. Because we have a president right now that continues to violate the Constitution, just like he violated the law. I think these people were always about discrimination, discriminating against people that they don't like. And they have been doing it against black legal gun owners for decades. I mean, Ronald Reagan going after the Black Panthers. Okay, that's how California got gun control in the first place. Because black people were carrying guns, and it made Ronald Reagan and other white people very uncomfortable. Even though they weren't actually using those weapons for violence. And remember, Philando Castile. Remember him? Legal gun owner who was shot to death in his vehicle, and not a single NRA-loving conservative that I'm aware of stuck up for his right to bear arms, his Second Amendment rights. Apparently only the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment only applies if you're a white, cis Republican. And so, yes, I don't think they're going to stick up for transgender folks either. And that is despite the fact that, of course, trans individuals statistically commit almost no violent crime in the country and are much more likely to be the victims of violent crime than be the perpetrators. You know why? It's because it was always about hate. And that is why I'm afraid that if this happens, that they are going to disarm a section of the population, which is exactly what they did in Nazi Germany, by the way. They disarmed a certain part of the population that they intended on targeting and destroying. And that's what I'm afraid this could potentially lead to. Read your history books, folks. This is exactly the road that I warned us that we were going to be on if we allowed these kinds of people to take over. Okay. Oh, did they? VMan29397 says, we live in a bizarro timeline where I'm agreeing with the NRA. Whoa! They recently released a statement condemning the proposal by the Trump administration. Holy crap! Oh my God, that is a shock. Well, all right then. There's something. That is something. You know, to get on the like, to kind of piggyback on that, how weird, how bizarre a world this is. I mean, I gave credit to Project Veritas for their honeypot video, and to Marjorie Taylor Greene for calling the White House cowardly for not releasing the Epstein files. There's some weird stuff happening here these days. So, oh my God, good on them for actually condemning this, because it is exactly the kind of thing that they've been warning about for a long time. And of course, it's not coming from Obama. Well, Obama ain't taking your guns. Trump take your guns. Trump take gun. Just like he took egg. And there you go. All right. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching. Please like and share the stream. Thank you, VMan29397, for the very kind super chat. You help to support the show, and I really appreciate that a lot, a ton, actually, because, again, as I was mentioning earlier, it's kind of hard out here for actual independent progressive media, because I don't get funding from any of the dark money or big groups or Polymarket or anything like that. I get it from you, from people like Boston C-Rad, who signed up to be a supporter. Gemini SG, another one who supports the show. This is on our YouTube membership page, and you can become a member by hitting the join button below. Or Ghost in the Machine, Mia Ardell, Christy Crow, many others. Okay, thank you to all of you who support the show, who are, helping to keep the lights on. Thank you for that. You can become a member. Again, hit the join button below if you're on YouTube. You can also subscribe, support us on Twitch, on Facebook, or you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. All right. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Monday.